Hey, were any of you guys ever in a band? Growing up or maybe now? And did any of your bandmates kill each other? What's up? What's going on? Hide and read. Let me know in the comments. But yeah, I read Lords of Chaos, Bloody Rise of the Satanic Metal Underground, and yeah, just want to talk about it a little bit. So the title is a bit of you know, it's a bit exploitive, but really what this book was about was the development of Norwegian black metal, and more specifically a certain crime or a certain set of crimes uh, that were or maybe were not done by a group of people, depending on who you ask. And it was very interesting. Um, it talked a little bit about Satanism. Maybe honestly, I felt like they focused on it almost too much, to be honest. But there's a bit of filler in there. It was interesting. It definitely is part of the story. Um, but it's not like a book about Satanism. And if you're kind of curious about that topic, but you don't want to get involved in it, um, this was like a pretty good way to yeah, just kind of grapple with the ideas of it a little bit, and like yeah, like I said, in a safe way. So um I guess we'll start with just the main story, which is not the title. The title is about um the title Lords of Chaos comes from like this kind of anarchist clique of young teens that were actually in America, and it was kind of shoehorned in towards the end of the book. We're not even going to cover it. It's kind of silly and more of a distraction than anything, I felt like, to the book. But the book is mostly about, like I said, Norwegian black metal, and specifically some crimes revolving around this band, excuse me, Mayhem. And so, what is Norwegian black metal? Um, it's kind of like shock rock, kind of. It's very heavy, it's distorted. It has lots of themes of uh, sometimes Satanism. Sometimes it has themes of like natural pagan beliefs. Um, but a lot of it is just meant to be kind of shocking and extreme, and just basically to fly in the face of what society thinks is acceptable. They'll wear corpse paint, which is just kind of like Kiss makeup, to be honest. But it's like very kind of depressive. They'll dress up kind of like vampires, and I'm trying to find you a nice picture of this corpse paint. Um, yeah, here you go. And just play very heavy, kind of melodic but slow, distorted, kind of doomy music. And truthfully, for the time, the music, whatever they were channeling, um, is kind of impressive. Like what, and you got to remember these are kids basically, and the music that they came up with was so just kind of out there. And if you're into like extreme metal music now, a lot of it just you know has its foundation in this Norwegian black metal. So it's kind of impressive in that sense. Like some of the melodies and riffs and just harmonies and stuff that these kids are able to come up with. And one thing that I was surprised by is like how sober the death, this Norwegian black metal, excuse me, scene was. I thought everybody would be drinking and at least smoking weed or something. A lot of these guys are just kind of, I don't know, kind of like depressed or doomy kind of guys. I guess they have long dark winters. Maybe that has something to do with it, but I don't know. A lot of it seems like they're trying to outdo each other. But we'll go back to this band Mayhem, and so one of this main members of this Norway scene, his name, they all have these like stage names. Euronymous, and he opens up like a record store in Oslo, I believe, and this kind of becomes the center of the scene, and lots of people will hang out around there and buy records from there and come in and talk to this guy Euronymous. He'll hold court kind of, and he is kind of putting a lot of the different ideas um, forward, basically. Then you also have another young man whose birth name, oddly enough, is Christian. Um, but I think they were, at the time, they were calling him the Count Grishnak, if I'm recalling correctly, and Varg Vikernes. Um, and these two guys will end up being kind of the star of this story here. So uh, originally the band is led by this guy Euronymous, and him and the bandmates, they live in a house together, and one of the band members, who oddly enough his name is Dead, he commits suicide. Um, he uses a shotgun, and he removes his head from his body, basically. And shockingly enough, there's an actual picture of that exact scene inside this book. I won't show it to you on here, but it's in there. I was kind of surprised by that, but they know that this guy is in there, and he did this to himself, his bandmates, but he for some reason locked the doors to the house, so they have to break. The only way they can get into the house is by breaking into his room and unlocking the house that way. And so they have to like climb. It's like kind of this like morbid scene where they have to climb through the window and go through this bloody mess. And this guy Euronymous, he, for whatever reason, decides to one, take pictures of his fellow bandmate or friend. It's hard to tell what these guys consider each other, of his corpse, basically. And he takes pictures, and then he takes fragments of this guy's skull and makes jewelry out of it. He allegedly also takes brain matter so that he can ingest it, so that he can now claim to be a cannibal. And wow, things like, how far do things have to go for you to like be one-upping each other until something like this happens? It's pretty crazy. So this guy Euronymous is pretty out there. Now, how much of that story is true, I don't know, but certainly he did take pictures of his bandmate, and he had possession of them. That much is definitely known. And I think with the jewelry too, people kind of confirm that was the case. Anyway, so that's like one of the first crimes in this book. Now, coinciding with this, this guy that I mentioned before, Varg, or Count Grishnak, he is recruited into the band, I believe, to replace this this deceased member who was named Dead. And he, he's kind of on his own. He has his own little following. And he's leaving the kind of Satanist side of things and establishing more of like a nationalistic pagan revival kind of idea. And now he's going around and encouraging and also starting fires and burning down these kind of like remote historic churches in Norway. And they call them stave churches. It's actually pretty cool and interesting if you look at the architecture of them. They're made out of wood, so, and they're, like I said, they're in remote locations, so they burn very quickly. and it didn't really take much of an arsonist to burn these things down. But it looks like he may have done one or two of these things and then inspired other people to do this as well. So you have the suicide of dead, the alleged ingestion of his remnants. You have the jewelry. You have these churches burning down. You have now you have two kind of distinct groups inside one scene, and both of these guys are now find themselves inside one band. And also, this guy Varg, he has his own band, Burzum, and it's kind of like a solo project. And he's also under, I think, this guy Euronymous has a record label, and he's the distributor of this band Burzum. So there's money tied into this as well. But for whatever reason, whether it's because people are upset about the mistreatment of this guy's corpse, or it's a power struggle, or some sort of interpersonal failing in the band, this man Varg Vikernes, he ends up murdering Euronymous, and he does so with a knife, like in a very personal way. He stabs him a bunch of times, and claims that it's self-defense. He ends up going to prison over it, but and also the church burnings as well. But I think they only put two of these arsons on him. But yeah, holy crap, what a story! And then from there, it's a lot of interviews just about like the surrounding scene and what people thought was going on, and just different viewpoints. The book kind of drags on a little bit. Like I said, they kind of shoehorn other kind of extreme violence events that are tied to this like heavy metal music, but mostly this Norwegian black metal story is the base of it. And yeah, it was a good read. I've been meaning to read this for, well, probably since about 2008. If I remember correctly, I've wanted to read this book, and I just so happened to see it inside of a little free library. Probably one of my best little free library scores. So, Lords of Chaos. If that story sounds interesting to you, you can read everything online on Wikipedia and stuff. And if you're still interested, this is like a good place to source all of the different kind of interviews in like one spine. So yeah, had a lot of fun reading this. It wasn't like really as dark and depressing as the events sound, but it was very extreme. And until next time, find something to read, find somewhere to hide. Peace.